3:43 a.m., Debbie McGuire's phone buzzed beside her bed. She stirred, reached for it blindly, just expecting some late-night notification, or maybe a message from one of her kids out celebrating. Instead, it was from Hannah, her daughter. It read, "I'm sorry, Mum. I thought this was the right decision. I tried to heal and cope with it all, but I'm not okay." Her heart sank. Another message followed. "I tried messaging Locke, but he doesn't want anything to do with me now. Please check in on him. This is going to break his heart." The mother sat bolt upright. She knew that something was off. She fired back with message after message. "Where are you? You're not making sense. You're not going back to him. You can't live the way you were living, being treated like that." But she received no reply, and within just hours, smoke would rise from the bushland outside Ballarat, and it would lead to Hannah. By the way, this is Dark Case, and you can call me Jack. I bring you rare and unseen true crime cases, as well as other things that you may later regret knowing, with multiple uploads every single week. So if all of that sounds like your kind of thing, make sure you hit subscribe now and turn on all notifications. And now for today's silly little question that could actually be quite devastating. What's one thing in your life that you've said that you wish you could take back? Let me know down in the comments. All of your support over on Patreon, as well as right here via channel memberships on YouTube, are so appreciated. And I really can't thank all of you enough, but I'm still gonna say it. Thank you. And now, on with the video. Debbie knew her daughter. She knew her voice, her moods, her way of typing. That's why, even as the words glowed on her screen, something inside her recoiled. It didn't feel like Hannah. The spelling was right. The punctuation was perfect. But it was actually a little too perfect. Hannah was usually casual in her messages. She'd use emojis, abbreviations, and scatter typos when she was rushing. But this read like something written too carefully. The mother's immediate instinct wasn't pure grief. She didn't know quite what had happened. Instead, it was mixed with suspicion. Still, she couldn't afford to assume. She called, texted, called again. 23 messages in total. "Where are you? Please pick up. Come home to Mum, Hannah. I love you." But the phone stayed dark. By dawn, Debbie was in the car, driving to the Sebastopol house that Hannah once shared with her ex-partner, Lachlan Young. As she pulled up, she saw him. Lachlan was walking down the road with his father. She leapt from the car and told him about the texts. She asked if either of them had seen her daughter. Lachlan blinked. He looked confused and concerned. He said that he'd got some messages too. Said that he was worried too. Mother Debbie just wasn't sure what to believe, but she told him what needed to happen. She was going straight to the police. The official missing persons report was filed just after sunrise, but by then, emergency services were already dealing with something much worse. A call had come in at around 5 a.m, with reports of a vehicle fire deep in bushland, southwest of Ballarat. When firefighters arrived at State Forest Road, what they found was less of a car and more of a shell. It was a Mitsubishi Triton, melted, twisted, gutted by flame. As crews combed the interior, they found something nobody should ever have to see. In the front passenger side footwell, partially concealed beneath the warped dash, was a body. Later, they would confirm that it was Hannah McGuire. In the hours that followed, her parents were called in. What they feared most had become a reality, but the how, and more disturbingly, the why, remained unclear. The text messages still didn't make sense. Hannah hadn't shown any sign of wanting to do this. She had a new job that she loved, working with children at Delacombe Primary. She was a netballer, a teammate, a friend and a daughter. She was just weeks away from finishing her teaching degree. She was planning her future, and what she wasn't doing was giving up. Somehow, the deeper investigators dug, the less clear things became. strange money transfers surfaced. There was $5,000 wired from Hannah's account into Lachlan Young's, as well as $2,000 to her parents. All of this was done shortly before sunrise. That was when police stopped looking at Hannah's phone as evidence from her and started treating it as evidence against someone else. Just days earlier, Hannah had returned to the home that she once shared with Lachlan Young. It was meant to be a simple visit. She was just collecting a few final belongings, tying off some loose ends from a relationship that had already unraveled. There was a second intervention order in place issued just weeks earlier after Lachlan had attacked her car while she tried to pack up and leave. That time she was with her father, but this time she went alone. Police would later pinpoint the time of Hannah's final moment to being between 1:50 a.m. and 2:53 a.m. on April the 5th. Inside that time window, while her parents were asleep, while her friends were unaware, Hannah's time on this earth came to an end. Everybody close to Hannah knew that she'd been trying to get out of her old relationship. She'd been with Lachlan for nearly 3 years, and for most of that time, her friends and family had watched her spirit shrink. Her father Glenn had even helped her break into her own house one time after Lachlan confiscated her keys. Her mother Debbie had received panic phone calls where Hannah sobbed into the phone, begging for help as Lachlan followed her in his car, even trying to run her off the road, screaming at her to pull over. It wasn't a mystery to anyone who saw them together. Lachlan had a temper, he drank too much, and he didn't treat Hannah very well. In order to protect herself and start afresh, she'd taken out an intervention order. She told her workplace that he was threatening her, and that school had even gone into lockdown after Lachlan allegedly called to say that he was coming to get her. The school then assigned staff to monitor the exits, and Hannah was told to stay near the building at all times, just in case. Her friend and colleague Danielle McCann remembered asking Hannah directly, "Are you safe?" And Hannah's reply really stuck with her. She said, "I don't know." Still though, in spite of all of this, Hannah was making moves. She'd spoken to a solicitor with her dad. She sorted out her banking, now separating her finances from the old relationship. She was stepping into the new chapter of her life, and her friends noticed this too. She had found such a glow, one friend said in court, but it wouldn't last. On April the 4th, just hours before her time came to an end, Hannah was at the pub in Clunes, smiling, laughing, sharing pizza with her netball team. This was the last time that anyone saw her alive.
The McGuire family temporarily closed its pub here in Clunes following Hannah's death, but tomorrow it will reopen with the help of the former publican. Just one example of how this tight-knit community is banding together.
He's willing to come back and open the pub for us so that their money can keep ticking along and support themselves. It's sad what happened, especially in a small town where everyone's pretty close and tight.
As the investigation deepened, Lachlan Young's story began to fall apart. He had told Hannah's parents that he was worried. He told police that he didn't know where she was. He feigned shock at the money sent to his account from Hannah's. He played the concerned ex-partner, but the timeline didn't seem to match up. The messages from Hannah had been sent after investigators believed that she was already gone. So something was brewing, and then came the trial.
An emotional exit from Ballarat's courthouse for Hannah McGuire's family after they came face to face with the man police allege killed their daughter.
As you can imagine, this is a very devastating time for the family, for Hannah's loved ones, and for our community as a whole.
The defence would later argue that all of this happened due to a fight, that Hannah's time coming to an end was really just an accident, that Lachlan had thrown her to the ground during an argument, and that she'd hit her head on the bathroom sink. But prosecutors just weren't convinced. They argued instead that it was calculated, that Young had planned this, as well as the cover-up that followed. They pointed to a chilling piece of testimony from a friend of Young's named Benjamin O'Keefe. Ben, as he is referred to, told the court that Lachlan had pitched a plan just days earlier. He wanted to roofie Hannah, to put her behind the wheel, and then crashed the car, making it look like an accident. The goal was apparently to stop her from taking the house that they had owned together, to stop her from leaving him behind. Ben told him that this sounded like a terrible idea. He told him that he wanted nothing to do with it. But on the night of April the 4th, Lachlan messaged him once again, and this time, Ben for some reason went along with him. And within just hours, detectives will be standing over a burnt-out Mitsubishi Triton situated on State Forest Road in Scarsdale. The fire had long been extinguished, but the truth was just beginning to burn its way to the surface.
Now, during this court appearance, we heard that it is Mr Young's first time in custody. During the hearing, he barely lifted his head from the dock. It was a glass-encased dock. He was flanked by 2 police guards. Also in the court were loved ones of Ms McGuire. They could barely look at the accused as the hearing proceeded. We heard from the accused lawyer. As I mentioned, it's his first time in custody, and due to the nature of this charge being murder, the lawyer could not make an application for bail. We heard from police prosecution, who described this case as an incredibly complex one. We heard that multiple crime scenes have been established and they're undergoing analysis as we speak. Police will also be analysing several items, including CCTV, and we've heard that DNA evidence needs to be obtained and also analysed. So as I said,
on July the 9th, 2025, in the Supreme Court at Ballarat, Lachlan Young stood accused of murder. He entered a plea of not guilty. He admitted that he had caused Hannah's death, yes, but he insisted it wasn't murder, that it was all just spontaneous, an accident from a moment of rage. He even offered to plead guilty to manslaughter, but the prosecution rejected it. They argue that he'd planned this from the beginning, that the messages, the money, the fire, all of it pointed to intent, and they even had a witness to back it up. That was Ben O'Keefe.
The jury heard Lachlan ask, "What are we going to do with the car?" O'Keefe replied, "Dump it. We will get in more trouble for starting a bushfire." Later that day, another friend messaged O'Keefe to say Hannah was dead. He says he confronted Lachlan at his parents' home. Hannah better not have been in that car. She was. She was already deceased. She was suffocated. "Why would you get me to do something like that in my car? You've implicated me in a murder." To which Young replied calmly, "Don't worry, the police won't come."
O'Keefe testified that Lachlan had talked about crashing the car with Hannah unconscious behind the wheel, that he'd asked him to come along for the ride, that he'd paid him $45 to bring a second car so that Lachlan would have a way home after torching the scene. Ben O'Keefe told the court he didn't know Hannah was in the car, that he'd never actually looked inside. Lachlan's defence accused him of lying, of helping, of trying to save himself from being charged. But prosecutors had Lachlan's text messages, his voice messages, and the bank transfers initiated by Lachlan using Hannah's phone. Also notable is the fire. It was deliberately lit by using a yellow blowtorch, later recovered near the crime scene. Evidence was now piling up against him, and then a sudden shift, a development that would bring the entire courtroom to its feet. Friday morning, July the 18th, 2025. It was just 8 days into a trial that was expected to last for 8 weeks. Lachlan Young stood in front of a packed Supreme Court. He had been rearranged. This time, when I asked how he wanted to plead to the charge of murder, he didn't hesitate. "Guilty," he said. There was a moment of stunned silence, and then the courtroom erupted. Hannah's friends and family clutched each other weeping. Some applauded, others stood frozen, too overcome to move. Justice James Elliott thanked the jury for their service, and then ordered Lachlan Young to be taken back to the cells. Behind him was the weight of everything that he'd done, everything that he'd tried to hide, and everything that had finally collapsed in on him.
Hannah's family is from here in Clunes, around 30 minutes from Ballarat. This pub is where her dad last saw her. Tonight it'll be where the community celebrates a bittersweet legal win.
It's one thing to lose a daughter, it's another to hear her killer speak the truth for the first time. Hannah McGuire's parents vindicated after the worst was confirmed by the very person responsible for destroying their world. Lachlan Young suddenly changing his plea to guilty, admitting he murdered his ex. A mid-trial confession that was met by a roar of applause.
It was a stunning twist in the trial, which has already been running for 8 days. Young had admitted he killed Ms McGuire and staged her death to look like a suicide before torching her car with her body inside in remote bushland near Ballarat. But until today, he denied he intended to do it, claiming his former partner's death was unplanned and spontaneous. Then this morning, he had a dramatic change of heart and was rearraigned, pleading guilty to murder. It's a moment Hannah McGuire's grieving family has been waiting for since her death 15 months ago.
He had tried to erase a life, to turn a desperate, violent act into something else that would absolve himself entirely. But in the end, the truth held out. No more excuses, no more stories, no more lies. He will face a sentencing hearing later this year. Be careful out there, and I'll see you soon.